Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our very first Change Talk Forum. I must say it's wonderful to see so many familiar and new faces in the audience. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Linda Otto, and I'm going to be your MC for the day. And we really are here to connect, to learn, and to be inspired. So Change Talk came about as a result of sessions that we were having as a team, and we really felt that there was a need for us to promote the discipline and create an awareness of the change management capability in South Africa. We wanted to really help people understand what change management is and also what change management is not. So we really felt that there would be so much value in getting people from across industries, different roles, to come together and to share ideas about what change management is and how we can help and partner with organizations in order to affect change in the various degrees. So that's really what the purpose of today is. We do have a Connect, which is #ChangeTalk, and we'd love you to please tweet your ideas, your thoughts, any learnings, perhaps any experiences around change management to Change Talk. So we'd love to hear from you from a social media perspective. So please don't turn your phones off completely. We'd like to hear more from you. So as mentioned, the Diversified Consulting team really recognized the need for this initiative and as such are hosting the event today. Diversified Consulting is a boutique consulting firm, and we specialize in change management and change management only. And we really believe that we can make any change one that is possible, and it's something that we stand by. So just by show of hands, how many of you in the room want change? How many of you want change? Okay, quite a fair share of you want change. How many of you want to change? Okay, pretty similar, so maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. How many of you in the room want to lead change? Oh, okay, that's fantastic. Because one of the things that I always giggle about as a change management professional is it's one thing to stand up and tell people why they should change and all the benefits of change and, you know, why you're so scared and this is going to be easy. But I often have to step back and self-reflect on the way that I deal with change. And one event that really comes to mind was when I upgraded a cell phone contract a few years ago. So I got this new cell phone and it was in its box and it stayed in its box for months. And eventually my husband said, "Good grief, my love, what are you doing? Are you going to use this phone or aren't you?" And I was like, "Oh, you know, it's just such a mission. It's such a mission. I'm going to have to transfer my contacts and reset up my apps." And I was like, "Linda, you're a change manager. This is a bit embarrassing. If anyone knows about this, you're going to lose all credibility." So I sat there the one night and I unpacked the phone and I took it out, and lots of swearing and tears and drama later, eventually the phone was set up and it was easy from there. But for me, it was quite funny that as a change management consultant, even I resist change. So I think the value in these sorts of forums is for us to recognize that change is increasing at an exponential rate within our personal lives, within organizations, and even within society. And we need to start finding better ways of driving and enabling one another to deal with this sort of change. And I think more than ever as South Africans, we recognize the need to find ways of initiating better change, not just in our homes, but in our communities that we serve and society as a whole. So on that note, I'm going to introduce you to our keynote speaker today, who is Debbie Schön. And Debbie Schön is going to be taking you through some emerging trends in change management. So let me just tell you a little bit about Debbie before I invite her up. So Debbie is the MD of Diversified Consulting, And she has been in the change management field for over 20 years, leading change on large-scale projects and also people-related projects. A few years ago, a friend of hers, who's here with us today, asked Debbie what she planned on doing with her career. Was she intending to just carry on being an independent consultant, or did she have any aspirations to actually grow her company and make this into something larger? And on that note, Debbie and her husband, Eddie, partnered and formed Diversified Consulting. And by the way, I happen to just be one of their first employees, so it's fantastic for me to be standing here today. So Debbie and Eddie recognized the need in the market to move into a specialized management consulting field, and they have seen significant growth over the course of the last 3 years. And just seeing so many of you here today is testimony to that. We've also just opened up a branch down in Cape Town, which is really exciting. And we are also in the process of setting up a business in Ireland called Change Folio. So really, really exciting things have been happening for Debbie since that day. So thank you, other Debbie, for planting that seed. Debbie and Eddie have been married for 13 years, and they've got 2 beautiful daughters, Sinead and Tasman. And yeah, we're really excited to hear you sharing some of your learnings and insights with us. So on that note, Debbie, if you'd like to join us.
All right, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. It's incredible to see the mix and diversity of people that we have here today. We've got change management practitioners, we've got people from IT, from finance, from PMOs, project management officers, from CMOs, change management officers, we've got change management practitioners, we've got CEOs, we've also got heads of business. So it really shows you that we've got quite a diverse mix of people that are interested in change management. And I find that incredibly exciting, because what we're seeing is that there is appetite and recognition that change management is important, and that it's important to lead people through change, because we're going through so much rapid change at the moment. So the purpose of today is to take you through an understanding of what was predicted for change management 5 years ago. So in 2013, what were people saying about change and the discipline of change management? From there, we're going to have a look at emerging trends and global trends in change management. And then very importantly, how do we actually apply that to the South African context? And that's where we have our panel members who are going to help share some of their learnings with us around that. And, the intent behind this is that we hope to share with you insights that you can then take with you back into business, back into your personal roles in business, to help really transform organizations and to lead change in a better way. So just to start off with, I want to take you through some of the predictions that was shared by Harvard Business Review as well as ProSci in 2013. So 5 years ago, studies were done that predicted where we would be right now. And I'd like to do a little bit of a check on, are we there? Are we there? So starting off with Harvard Business Review, they said that they expected to see companies implementing a common framework for change management by 2018. Some of the frameworks that we have seen coming into place over the last 5 years, because as Linda said, Diversified Consulting specializes in change management, and we started specializing 5 years ago. In that period between then and now, what we've seen is a lot of companies are using methodologies like ADCAR, which is the ProSci methodology. I see a few people nodding their heads. For those of you who don't know ADCAR, it's a methodology provided by a company called ProSci. And that is where you take your employees through awareness, desire, building knowledge, giving them the ability, and reinforcing the change with them. We also have Kotter's model, where you start off by building a guiding coalition. So a lot of organizations are using Kotter's model. We've also got Lewin's model, his 3-step model, where you actually have a look at unfreezing the current change, making the change, and then refreezing the change. And then you've got other organizations that are building their own models and frameworks for change. And I know with some of our clients that are sitting here that you have built your own frameworks for change that are being implemented. If you also have a look, interestingly enough, at the books that we've handed out to you, you will recognize that that's also a framework for change on the front cover. And that's our own methodology. So frameworks for change management are being introduced into organizations. We're seeing that happening. They also predicted that there would be an integration of change management into project management. Again, we're seeing that happening in organizations. Just the number of IT people that we have in the room is testament to that. So I'm looking at Vim from T-Systems in the IT space, Gary from Nedbank in the IT space, yes, Christian from Westbank in the IT space. So yes, we're definitely seeing change management being integrated into project management. Then management accountability. So another key prediction was that it is so important for managers and leaders to be taking accountability for leading change. You'll see that a lot of that comes through in some of the research that was done by ProSci as well. So ProSci predicted that there would be maturity and growth in change management as a field. And one of the things that we are seeing is that change management is shifting from being viewed as a discipline and an art to now being viewed as a science. And some of the emerging global trends that we're going to share with you will show you how it's emerging and evolving as a science. In addition to that, you'll see some of the common themes coming through. So also talking about the integration into project management, which we are seeing in companies, and the building of stronger internal change management capabilities in companies. So the shift from using external people to drive change towards building internal competencies to make sure that people within business are equipped to lead change. As a result of that, as a result of companies building internal capabilities, we have seen a sharp increase in the demand for change management resources. So for those of you who happen to recruit change management resources or who are involved in the HR/OD change management space, you will have noticed that there is a bit of a skill shortage around that at the moment. Finding great resources around change has become something that is an issue and a challenge that we need to address. That demand has increased. And of course, this has all culminated into what they predicted, which is that companies are now realizing the value that there is in change management. And of course, companies are at different levels and stages of maturity. So I'd like to just share with you what those stages of maturity are. So some of you sitting here are in the stage where you're simply exploring change management. You recognize that there's a need for it, but you want to start the journey. Others are establishing change and the frameworks for change management. Others are embedding change management, and some of you are looking at evolving change management. So I'd just like to get a view of where we are in the room. So how many of you are currently exploring change management as a discipline that you'd like to have either in your company or something you'd like to run with personally? Who's exploring? Okay, good, thank you. How many of you are currently establishing change management in your organizations? Here we go, good, very good. Embedding, so you've got the frameworks, you're embedding. Yes, okay, good, nice show of hands there. How many of you are in the evolving stage? Love it, all right. So you can see immediately in the room there's opportunity for you to connect with people and understand what they're doing in their organizations around change. So let's have a look at what some of the emerging themes are, and I'm going to start with the first one. And I just want to position where we sourced this information from. So we did a lot of research. We referenced, for example, Harvard publications, ProSci research that's been done, CMO Adobe research that's been done, as well as many other reference sources. We then had a look at the common emerging themes across all of those references to come up with these 5 emerging themes. So the first thing is, still now in 2018, looking forward to 2020 up to 2025, is still the focus on building internal change management capabilities. We're seeing an increase in the value of change management, but one of the things that's driving the focus on building internal capabilities is cost management. So organizations are recognizing that the cost of using, for example, external resources can be quite high, so they want to develop internal capabilities. But they're also recognizing that if they're able to develop competencies internally with employees that currently work for the organization, they're also able to keep costs down. So cost is definitely a driver. What's quite interesting is, we engage with a lot of people from different companies, different industries, different sized businesses. And what we're seeing in quite a few organizations is they're setting up change management expertise or resources, but then as they need to implement change and scale up, they're then bringing in external resources to help them deal with the scaling. And then, of course, once that's done, then those resources leave. That's helping them manage costs. So that's one of the approaches that we're seeing being implemented within South Africa. The next thing with internal capabilities is around resource demand. So we are seeing, as we move forward, there's going to be more and more demand for change management resources. And that in turn links to the development of competencies and change management competencies, not only with change management practitioners, but also with leaders and with employees. So developing the competence of change management across an enterprise requires making sure that it's in people's career path, making sure that job descriptions are updated to reflect it as a competency, making sure that there are different programs that have been identified for people to go on to develop their change management skills. We are seeing an increase in the number of change management programs and certifications that are coming out into the market. I mean, just an example is earlier this year, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Get Smarter, fantastic way of doing tertiary online education. Get Smarter earlier this year released their certification in change management. So we're definitely seeing this increase in developing that competency. And then still fitting within internal change management capabilities is the establishment of change management officers. Now, the reason why that's becoming more and more prevalent is because there needs to be a place where change management is centralized. So how many people here have established change management offices, centralized change management offices? Okay. So AB and Bev have established a CMO. And of course, it depends on the size of the organization as well. That certainly plays a part. But Change Management Office centralizes your frameworks, your resources, your tools, your templates, the technology that supports change management and helps drive that across an enterprise. Okay. All right, so that's the first emerging trend. Now, the reason why these internal capabilities are being set up is because we need to make sure that we've got change management in place to help organizations implement technology innovation, digital innovation, any change that's being implemented in the organization. So I just want to talk about tech innovation for a moment, and I want to ask you a question. If you were given $1,000 in 2010, and you were told that you could invest that $1,000 into the shares of Google, Netflix, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and let's throw in Domino's Pizza. What would be your top three companies that you would have invested in 2010 to get the best return in 2017? I want to ask you to write that down in your books. What would be your top three? Your top three companies that you would have invested in where you would have expected to get the best return on your investment? Of course. So it's Google, Tesla, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, and Domino's Pizza. Okay, written down your top three. Who thinks Google would have given you the best return? Okay, quite a big show of hands. Tesla? Fewer? Amazon? A lot. Okay. Apple? What about Domino's Pizza? A few. All right. Oh, Netflix. Sorry, Netflix. Oh, good. Well done. There's the results. Okay. Domino's Pizza by far would have given you the better share return. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? I mean, every time I see this, it gives me goosebumps because they're in the food industry. They deliver pizzas. And look at their share value, right? So how does this link to what we're talking about in change management? Well, a few years ago, I was watching a video, and the then CEO of Domino's Pizza was talking about how he leads his organization and his teams. And he said, I want to share one thing with the people that are watching this, and that is that you will only ever be as successful as your team wants you to be. And that really struck such a chord. And I thought, that's what leadership is about. It's about working together with your team, collaborating with your team, leading your team, so that they collectively want you to succeed. Okay? As you can see here, some of the behaviors that we have seen in leadership, and that's why there's such a greater demand for stronger leadership in change management, is, well, what if we don't lead this change and something magical just happens? And I certainly know for a lot of people in business that are implementing projects, people in project management offices or centers of excellence or change management practitioners, that's often one of the challenges is getting leaders to stand alongside driving this change. I see a lot of people nodding their heads. It's such a critical part of what we're doing. So the most important thing, and again, this has been validated by ProSize benchmarking studies that they do globally every year, is that sponsorship is the #1 contributor to successful change and to successful change management. You've got to have the sponsor on board. And of course, senior leadership support. In addition to that, management and leadership is change management. It's at the crux, it's at the core of what leaders do. One of the articles that we read in preparing for this is that, managers just, if they don't get that their core is leading people through change, then they've missed the boat, because everything that you do is about change, everything as a leader. And linking into that is because we're moving and changing at such a rapid pace, leaders need to be equipped with the competencies to shift cultures that have change agility. But the question is then, how do we do that? So there are 5 key behaviors that leaders should display to drive a culture of change agility. And just to share with you, this is through Harvard. And I want to use an analogy for you going back to the Domino's example, because it's such a great example of how this organization is setting themselves apart. So what they've done is in 2010, Domino's was going through a really tough time. The business wasn't looking good. Okay? It was at risk. They started to explore what they could do to shift the company. The leadership team worked together with the employees, and they said, you know what we want to do? We want our clients to say, wow, did Domino's Pizza really do that? That was what they wanted. Wow, did Domino's Pizza really do that? So that was their vision. Looking ahead, they said, what is it that we can do that is different? So they introduced pizza delivery through drones. They introduced, in 2013, a virtual assistant, a fully integrated virtual assistant on the Domino's Pizza app. They introduced augmented reality billboards, okay, that also allowed you to order your pizza. And of course, with that, they also had a look at seeking out what wasn't working. So do yourselves a favor and actually go and do a little bit of research and find some YouTube videos on their attempts to launch their drones. I mean, they had some terrible disasters, but it's incredible how they've shifted from that experimentation to now actually being able to deliver pizzas through drones. So they had a look at what wasn't working, but they fixed it. They failed quickly, and they fixed it. They promoted calculated risk-taking. Part of that as well, which links into looking for boundary-spanning partnerships, is that they are currently working with Tesla. So the partnership into another tech area to deliver pizzas using autonomous vehicles only. So you can see that cross-collaboration happening. These behaviors are what drive change agility. These behaviors are what will ensure that we're seeing greater leadership support of change. So it was quite nice seeing what these behaviors are and actually being able to see it come to life through an example that we can all relate to. Okay. So looking at the third emerging trend, in 2013, there was a prediction that change management would be integrated into project management. What we're seeing is that change management is being integrated into other practices as well. So certainly with the introduction of Agile as a methodology that's used to bring change into businesses at a quicker pace, okay? Change management needs to be integrated with Agile. We're seeing that taking place. Change management also needs to be integrated with hybrids, where we've got the waterfall project management approach mixed with the Agile project management approaches. What's interesting with this is that with change comes uncertainty. With Agile comes even more uncertainty, because as you're rolling out projects, with Agile, the principle is that you'll have a quick release, but also if that's not working, that you're quickly able to change tack and to deploy something better or something that's more current, something that will differentiate you. And what's happening is, what we're seeing at the moment is employees are saying, but we want more certainty around what's going to happen in the future. The reality is, it's going to become more and more uncertain as companies try to keep up pace with the rapid pace of change and to stay relevant and competitive. We've also seen the integration of change management into lean practices. That'll continue as well. into continuous improvement practices. We're seeing it very strongly in the OD space to support mergers and acquisitions, to support things like retrenchments and Section 189s and Section 197s. So there's definitely a shift towards that, and there will be a continued shift towards that. All right, the fourth emerging trend is around data sciences, and this is where, when we were talking about going through the different phases and the evolution of change management, data sciences becomes a very key part of the evolving stage of change management. So for data sciences, companies need to set themselves up to start collecting data for change management. We're not seeing a lot of that in place at the moment. So finding the source data is really important, and establishing that right from now is going to be a key differentiator for you, whether you are a practitioner or whether you're part of an organization. So if we're able to gather data about change management, it gives us the opportunity to quantify the value of change management for business. We're able to measure the return on investment. We're able to see, is it worth putting money towards change management to get the return that we're looking for? It also helps us build predictive models. So to share with you, if you gather change management data over a significant period of time, you will be able to predict which leaders in your business are likely to be most successful at leading and driving change and the adoption of change. You will be able to predict which change activities will increase our response to change. You'll be able to predict what approaches to learning and development can we use for specific stakeholder groups to improve our adoption rates. Okay? So gathering that data can give you those insights. In addition to that, data can also give us insights into selecting the right people. It can help us define the right profile of leaders for the selection process. It can help us select, for example, psychometrics that will identify great leaders for business, as well as, of course, looking at the behaviors that are needed for change practitioners. So if you're in a company where you actually want to develop and build your internal capability and you want to use existing staff members to do that, give them the opportunity to grow, this is where this could really come into good stead. The next thing that's trending is the insights into transformation investments. So if you've got the data, you can see what has worked. You can quantify what has worked. You can also quantify what hasn't worked. And you can use those lessons to improve the investment in your transformation initiatives. And then the last thing is that all of this also feeds into our ability to build better change management strategies that will help organizations achieve their goals. Right. Then the fifth emerging trend, which is the last emerging trend, is around the insurgence of digital tools that are being used by organizations to manage change. What we're seeing, especially in the clients that we work with, and even just in various industries as a whole, is that change management is being implemented across projects and programs, but there isn't that collective enterprise view of change. So digital change tools can give us that enterprise view. It also helps us to visualize change. So some of the things that we're hearing people say over and over again is, I want a view of what's coming. I want to be able to visually see that across the enterprise. It allows people to cross-collaborate, where we can share change plans with one another. Where, for example, if you're implementing something and it touches several people in your organization, that you don't have 10 different change managers or 10 different areas of business trying to engage with that same stakeholder group, but that you can coordinate those efforts. Digital tools will help you integrate all of the tools and the governance and frameworks that you have in place, as well as how's the data that we were talking about for data sciences. So that's something useful that can then be consumed from that. In addition to that is managing risk. So using digital tools can help you identify where you're at risk and what you need to address. Helps you coordinate efforts, and of course, very importantly, there are apps that are being used to improve stakeholder engagement and of course gamification to improve training and development. So the move towards digital is happening globally, but it's also happening in the change management space. And in change management, it is about change, so we need to make sure we're keeping up to date with that. So just to share in summary, the 5 emerging global trends that we're seeing is a focus on building internal change management capabilities, greater leadership support, integration with additional practices, so project management and more, introducing data sciences, and also linking that to the use of digital change tools. So for some of you, you might be doing some of this, you might be getting it right in some areas, you might not be getting it right. You might be starting the journey. And what we really hope is that you can use some of this feedback to actually start moving forward and evolving your change management journey. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to have a look at how we apply this in the South African context. I'm going to hand over to Linda, and she's going to ask the panel some questions. And we're also going to ask you, as the audience, for some questions around these emerging trends. So thank you very much, everybody.